I feel like Namco is a very well-known game company. I mean, Pac-Man. Everyone knows what Pac-Man is. His face is everywhere. He's almost as popular as Mario and Sonic, or maybe the same, who knows. Namco has made a lot of other good franchises except for Pac-Man that were very successful and continue to be successful today. The Tales series, for example. Those are very good RPGs that people absolutely love to play. They have a ton of games in those series. The Tekken series, awesome fighting game. It's my favorite fighting game series, and I've actually talked about it on the PS1 on this channel. Definitely check that video out sometime. And stuff like Klonoa, which I know Klonoa is definitely not a popular series, but they're fantastic 2D platformers, and if you've not played them and you like platformers, check the Klonoa games out. Namco was kind of spontaneous in the 2000s. They'd make games that, just to see what would stick to the wall pretty much. In 2009, they decided to make a game called The Munchables that was a Wii exclusive video game. I never even heard about this game back in the day. Never even saw it in person or at GameStop or nothing. This kind of flew under the radar. But apparently I do know people who have played this game before and played it as a kid. So here I am today to talk about this game and see if it's any good or not. So, is this game at all worth your time to check out and play? I'm here today to review The Munchables for the Nintendo Wii. The Munchables was released in 2009 only for the Nintendo Wii. It was developed by Now Production and published by Bandai Namco. I say Bandai Namco, but really Namco had most of the involvement here with this game. Now Production has been around for several years, since the 80s, and they've had a helping hand with a lot of game companies, including Namco. They've made some random games here I can let you know about, like some of the Adventure Island games on NES, as well as the TurboGrafx-16, even stuff like Chu Man Fu on the TG-16, that's apparently a hidden gem. They made Klonoa Empire of Dreams on the Game Boy Advance, and they had a helping hand in Katamari Damacy on the PS2, and you're going to get a vibe like that with this game quite a bit because it feels that way. The story of this game is pretty insane, what you would expect with a game like this, and they live on this planet called Starving, these things called Munchables, as well as the Great Elder. Well, they live in peace and harmony on these southern islands that inhabit the whole area, and what happens is this UFO comes down and unleashes all these creatures, these like food-looking like kind of guys, and they take over the whole world. Well, it's your job, the Munchables, that y'all have to go out there and eat all of them and get to their leader because they're going to try to take over the universe. So yeah, that's the plot of the game. The Munchables for the Wii is an action platformer all the way, and the controls are very basic. There's multiple control schemes to point out. You can play with the Wii Remote Nunchuck, a classic controller, or even the GameCube controller. They all function the same. The stick will move you though in any direction that you want. The X button is your jump button, and it's a very light jump. The A button, if you hit repeatedly, is to eat. You'll be using this a lot and pressing this a lot. You can even hold the A button down and you'll do like a charge E. It helps sometimes. The B button is your bash, and you'll definitely need to be using this against enemies who are stronger than you, as well as obstacles. And the last button is the L button. It is your lock on. I used this in the tutorial of the game. That was the only time I ever used it. So maybe you'll find better use than I did with it, but I don't really care for it. You really won't need it. The core gameplay of the Munchables is, well, you eat. A lot of this game is a bunch of eating is all you really do in this game, but there's some things that go into it. So to start off, you actually choose a different character. You can choose Chomper or choose Munchie. There's nothing different about the two, they're just, cosmetically different. And you start at level 1 usually on missions, but you'll sometimes start at a different level other than that. There's about 2 levels per each world, and there's about 8 worlds in this entire game. The goal of this game is to get to the end of the level and beat the leader pirate, they're called. And they're like this huge piece of food, and they're very high leveled, and what you do is you go around and you eat everything in sight. But you will come across enemies that you can't. If an enemy is at a higher level than your level, then you cannot eat it. The only way to get to eat that is when you get to that level at some point. But if you're around those enemies and there's no enemies in sight you can eat, you use the bash technique. You can bash into enemies and they'll divide into multiple different pieces and they'll be a lot lower leveled. That's how you get through this game a lot, because sometimes, there's an enemy you just can't get past and you just gotta eat the smaller guys to get bigger to overcome the bigger ones. When you beat the level, it'll say I'm stuffed, and that's pretty much an indication that you've beaten it. And after that, you'll go to a cutscene where you talk to the Elder, and you'll usually go to either the next level or the boss of that world. Whenever you beat a level, you get these things called orbs. They're from the meals that you get. On the screen at the top right, you'll have an amount of how many meals you've eaten. That's how many enemies you've eaten, of course. And you'll get orbs at the end, and that tells how good you did. You get a ranking, kind of like in a lot of Sega games, Sonic games and such. Yeah, you get like a S, A, B, or whatever. And when you beat the boss of the world, you get what's called a legendary orb. Nothing special. You're supposed to get that. You just need those to get to the end of the game, basically, to fight the final boss. When it comes to collectibles and such, there's not really much for this game. You do get these things called acorns in every level, and they're pretty easy to see. They're just kind of tucked away under like a tree or an object or something, and you just eat it, and there's usually like 10 or 20 in a level. And there's also power-ups in this game as well, some kind of neat ones. You get a vacuum power-up, and this like little song plays for like, 10 seconds or 15. They've also got this rocket ship power, they've got a quake power, and a spinning power. So you got some variety, and they're all on different levels too, so it makes it very interesting, especially to eat stuff. The game's worlds also have a lot of variety, but it's your typical stuff you see in every single platformer like Mario. You got your desert world, jungle world, cupcake world, sky world, ocean world, you name it, it's all here. But every world does feel different, and the levels all feel different. Yeah, the gameplay's simplistic, you just move around and eat stuff, but every level feels kind of different. They do a little bit of a different thing here and there, and it's very nice. Examples are like the ocean world. You go down and it just keep going down under it, and it'll tell you where you're at, and you have to get to the very bottom of the ocean floor to fight the boss. The sky world, you have these switches that you hit, and you can hit them and it'll change to clouds or sun, and you can usually get on switches to get to other areas. And even stuff like the mountain lava world, the lava's rising and you gotta go up. So it's not super crazy, but at least they make it interesting, and they tried. The boss fights in this game are pretty fun to play against too. They're all mostly different for the most part, but they're hilarious to look at. They're very easy though. As a matter of fact, this whole game is a freaking spring breeze. This is probably the easiest game I've ever played in my entire life, at least one of them. You really just don't have a penalty of dying. Apparently you can die, but I tried to die in a level and nothing happened. You just hit the X button a few times and you're good to go. You just lose a few meals and such, so it does affect your score, but in terms of progress, you're pretty much good. A 2-year-old could play this game. That's how simple it is. The Munchables on the Wii is definitely worth checking out. It's a very fun game, and it's got some cool things going for it. It's very simplistic, very easy, and very repetitive, but it's kind of fun just to kind of be mindless for a little bit and eat stuff. And there's something satisfying about eating and getting bigger and just seeing the level go up and up and up. I don't know. It's a sense of progression, and it's just going all the time. And you can play this game with a friend too, I believe. I didn't get a chance to do that myself, but if you got someone that you would like to play an easy game with, this is definitely a good candidate for something you should play. This game doesn't really reinvent anything at all, but I think the creativity of everything in this game, the high energy music, which I love the soundtrack by the way, give it a listen sometime, and just the overall presentation of this game. It's good for kids if they want something instant gratification, and it's good for adults if you just want to, get high or something, do some LSD and play this game. Nah, I'm just kidding. Play this game sober. This game, unfortunately, is trapped only on the Nintendo Wii. It's not even on Steam or anything. You gotta play it on the Wii only. The game's about $25 complete in box, give or take, and that's actually not a bad price for this game, because it's a pretty uncommon game. I have actually never seen this game in the wild. I think I bought this on eBay some time ago, and yeah, it's just one of those games that didn't sell well, I guess. But definitely worth adding to your collection, or if you simply just want to play the game and kill a few hours. That pretty much wraps up this review, so as always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Y'all take it easy.